Hey everybody, Stargood here. Today I'm going to talk about the cost of a DIY install of a solar system. The solar system that I installed was 8.625 kilowatts and came to that number by multiplying the number of panels that I bought, 23 by the watts per panel. The nominal rating of the system is 7.9 kilowatts, which is the usual power production under normal lighting conditions. So this is kind of the expected power output of the solar system. So in all, this project took me about 5 months, and I'd say half of that time was spent buying the supplies, and half of that time was spent putting together the system. It took me that long because I was not available. I was only available like on the weekends to work on the system. So if you do have more free time, this should probably take you much faster to get the install done. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to give you a cost breakdown of every part of the system. So I guess the first part of the system, first cost was the permitting, starting with the city permit. So solar systems involve a lot of electrical work and connecting to the grid. So those are kind of two areas where you're going to need to coordinate with the authority that kind of is in charge of that. So those two authorities would be, for me, it was the city that I lived in, as well as the utility that provides energy and who I am now, in an agreement to supply power to them, any surplus power that I generate. So the biggest cost in permitting was the city, and you can see that it ran me over $700. So this is actually a little higher than usual. The actual cost for a building permit, is around 500, but since I had to make a revision that involved increasing the size of my system, they had to review it again, and that was about $200. So that's how we got to 730. There's also a utility interconnection request that you need to submit to, that I needed to submit to my utility, which was Southern California Edison, and that was $75. So that was about $800 for permitting, which is definitely a little higher than I expected. So now this is the biggest expense of the system, and you guessed it, it is the solar panels themselves. So I got 23 solar panels, and it cost about $4,500, including shipping. So I bought it from like a warehouse that supplies to DIYers like myself, as well as contractors, called Surplus Solar, and they have a website that shows you the solar panels in stock. And after some review, I decided that the Hyundai panels were for me. So it took them about like over a month to actually get them delivered at my place. There were a few kind of miscommunications with the freighting company, so that was one kind of reason for the long shipping time. But the panels arrived in good condition, and they were very, very well built. So happy with that. So another big expense in the solar category are the optimizers. I chose to go with Solar Edge optimizer system, which is kind of optimizes the solar production of each panel. And I bought 24 optimizers for over $1,000 on eBay. The other expense for my solar system was the railing. I bought this from a warehouse called Green Tech Renewables, and they provided all the railing as well as a lot of spare parts for underground. And the type of railing system that I bought was called Unirac. So I bought the Unirac system. So it was like called the flash mount kit, flashings. Let's type in flashings. So it was like this, and this was, I think, the most affordable racking and kind of mounting system that I could find, and it ended up being very affordable in my opinion. There are other systems like Iron Ridge, but I think those are more costly. Of course, you should compare these racking systems because higher cost might bring you, it might be easier to install. So just check out other people's experiences with them. And all this cost me about $6,500. So now we're going to the DC to AC equipment. So of course, this refers to the equipment that converts DC power, which is produced by the solar panels, into AC power, which is supplied to the house and also sent back to the utility as surplus power. So those two components are the inverter and AC disconnect. The inverter is a SolarEdge inverter. It was a 7.6 kilowatt inverter, and it looks like this. So these things convert DC power from the roof, the solar panels, into AC power, and they're quite good looking units, and SolarEdge is a very reputable company, so I'd recommend going with them. Another company that is popular supplies, I think, AC inverters, so they connect directly to the solar panels and convert them to AC electricity at the right underneath the solar panels. So you don't need, so instead of one big inverter like SolarEdge provides, there is a mini inverter for each solar panel, and that, I believe, Enphase supplies those. So that's another thing you could also review if you're deciding between the two. So the AC disconnect is used to switch off the power in the case of an emergency. So this will switch off the power coming out from your inverter and into your grid. And that I bought online for under $100. The brand was the Eaton. It was called Eaton AC Disconnect. So in all, that ran over $1,000. Okay, so next is the wiring. I bought most of my wiring at Home Depot. They have all different types of wires, including outdoor rated wires. So those are usually categorized as THN. So these wires are rated for indoor, outdoor use. They have like a plastic sheathing and are pretty durable. So I bought a bunch of wire, actually more than I needed. And yeah, the total cost ended up being, a few hundred. Copper is pretty expensive, especially the 6 gauge wire, 6 gauge bare copper that's used for grounding your system. Okay, finally, we're getting into all the miscellaneous expenses, including the conduit, the wire nuts, the straps, even pipe benders, I also included some breakers in here. But this is all just like little stuff that actually adds up to be quite a big expense. And the most annoying part of this was that I had to go back to Home Depot like more than a dozen times because, every time I work on something, I discover I need something else. So just keep in mind that's going to take a while too. Okay, and for the moment you all been waiting for, the total cost, if you've been paying attention, is just all those expenses added together, and it's just under 10 grand. So, yeah, at the end, that was kind of like how much I expected. Now, keep in mind if you're planning on doing this, to keep all your receipts, because there is like a federal rebate. I think it's like 30%, the cost of the solar system that you can deduct from your taxes. And that's it. Yeah. Let me know if you have any questions. Ciao.